Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Pav and Chitra. I'm Chitra.
And I'm Pav.
If you've watched our episodes before, you'll know that we start with a fun fact, quote, or joke. Pav, I think it's your turn today. What do you have?
It is my turn, and I have a quote for you today, and I am going to have to read it, otherwise I think I'm going to get it wrong.
Sure.
So this quote is by Kofi Annan, who's the former Secretary General of the UN. And he says, "People of different religions and cultures live side by side in almost every part of the world. We can love what we are without hating what and who we are not. We can thrive in our own tradition, even as we learn from others and come to respect their teachings."
Wow, that's lovely and quite thought-provoking.
Sure is.
Was it Harmony Day recently? Because I'm feeling the themes of, acceptance, tolerance, diversity, cultures.
Spot on, and it was Harmony Day actually. Probably not for when this is being viewed by you, but certainly when we're shooting it, it was literally on Friday. And, as you know, everyone wears orange and participates in terms of culture and tradition. But can I ask you something? I know you're a big traveller with your family and you love visiting different parts of the world. Travelling's one thing. You obviously go to the country and you're there, and therefore you're exposed to the culture. But how much do you actively sort of immerse yourself in learning about the culture of a different country, the true culture of a different country?
Yeah, look, we do try and travel when we can, and getting to know the culture of the region or the area that we travel to, that's definitely of top priority for us when we travel as a family. So we love attending art exhibitions or cultural performances, be it dance or music, and even talking to the locals, understanding what kind of dialects they speak, and really understanding their day-to-day rituals, the festivals they celebrate. So we were recently in Bali, actually, and that's a cultural haven. And it was fascinating to understand the differences between the Ramayana that they follow and portray, and the Ramayana for us. So definitely on our top agenda. What about you, Pav? More so locally as well? I know you do a lot of cultural things locally in Sydney.
Yeah, look, I think we do, because obviously travelling is one thing, but you're not always going to be travelling, and especially at the time that there's a festival on or something where you can really immerse yourself. But I think in the city that we live in, it's known for bringing it to us, whether it be at school we spoke about Harmony Day or Diwali, Lunar New Year, the Ramadan or Lakemba night markets, which is what they call it now. There's so many ways in which you can go and explore different cultures and traditions at our doorstep. And although we're still very much on the journey, because we are a family that's got Indian parents and sort of raised and we're all Indian in the family, that we really do have to push ourselves to sort of go out and learn a little bit more. But definitely try and do that more and more.
Lovely. And look, cross-cultural awareness is something that we both, I know, are quite interested in. And we wanted to make that the topic for today. And we actually have a special guest for whom cross-cultural awareness is also very close to her heart. So I can't wait to meet her. Shall we go?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
We have with us today the lovely Sheila Jayadev. Welcome. Sheila is a creative producer with a background in entertainment law. She grew up in Strathfield, Sydney, studied media and law, and began her career as a criminal defence lawyer before transitioning into film. Winning a short film competition led to a scholarship at AFTRS, which is the Australian Film, Television and Radio School, where she co-founded an independent production company. She has produced acclaimed projects like Ali's Wedding, Stateless, Here Out West, House of Gods, and Critical Incident. Now she produces high-end drama at Matchbox Pictures. Through her films, she tries to explore themes of prejudices in society and does this in a sensitive, moving, and authentic way. She continues to live in Sydney with her husband and 2 daughters. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. Look, we start all of our conversations by asking our guests about their childhood. So I would love to know a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And as a child, what were you curious about?
What a great question to start with, because driving here I now live in Stanmore in the inner west, so coming back to Strathfield, I spent the first 25 years of my life just around the corner on Highgate Street in Strathfield.
I remember.
Oh my gosh, all the memories came back.
Yeah.
It was really quite emotional. Some of the houses had stayed the same, others had changed manifestly, but yeah, to spend a quarter of a century in an area, it really grounds you. So it's just, it's kind of poignant to be back here reflecting on my childhood and what it was like growing up Indian Australian in Strathfield. Look, it was, I don't know. As a kid, I always knew that I had an interest in the arts, a real creative leaning. Early on, it was about writing stories, English, literature, all of that sort of thing. In high school, I really enjoyed being part of theatre productions.
Yep.
And that's when I realised I really want to be part of a team that puts together a show of some sort. Nice. And that morphed into a desire to be involved in the film industry rather than the stage. But of course, like so many of us, there was always a parental sort of imperative to make sure that you actually do have a vocation that you can derive some income from, which is great advice because the film industry is so tough. Like I do not regret a day of my time as a lawyer. Yeah. So that was my backup career. So I studied media arts and law when I finished school. And straight after uni, I went into being a criminal lawyer. And we can talk a bit more about that. But then I always knew that I wanted to get into film somehow. And the circuitous way that I got there was after being a criminal lawyer, I was an entertainment lawyer. And that's where I made all the contacts. And yes, lovely.
Actually, talking about your, criminal law days, your first job out of uni, you said, was that of a criminal defence lawyer. And I guess you, from what I understand, you had to sort of defend and represent juveniles.
Yes.
And that too of sort of different potentially disadvantaged backgrounds or cultural backgrounds.
Yep.
Can you just talk us through how that could have played a part in shaping who you are today?
Yeah, I think it really did. I think the first time I realised I wanted to get into criminal law and defence law, at uni we had a speaker come talk to us, and she headed up this a legal service that was just for young people, under 21s essentially. And it just sounded so fascinating. So after studying law, I did my practical legal training at the Aboriginal Legal Service. And from there, managed to get a job at the Children's Legal Service, which is part of legal aid. And that was 18 months of my life, which was just eye-opening. I guess I don't want to say it was a sheltered childhood, but as you know, you kind of spend a lot of time with your community or your friends at school. So an awareness of bigger societal issues of, the over-representation of young people and young people of colour, especially, and disadvantaged, socioeconomically disadvantaged groups in the criminal justice system. It was like, wow, I felt so lucky that I'd had such a safe childhood, because that is not...
We do take that for granted, don't we?
For granted. And it was... It gave me purpose every day to go and represent these kids, because for the most part, I would not blame them. My gosh, absolutely not. They were a victim of their circumstance. There's very few genuinely evil people in this world, I think. So it was fantastic, but it was also very moving and challenging to do that day in, day out. And I really take my hat off to all those lawyers who continue to do that for their entire careers. I did it for 18 months, like I say, because I had this other burning desire to get into film, and then the opportunity to become an entertainment lawyer came up. I pursued that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Wow. Today's topic for the episode is cross-cultural awareness. And I want to start off by saying that none of us are experts in that field. We're all on our own journey, right? And especially for Pavna and myself, we were really curious, and we wanted to provoke thought. And we wanted to talk about how we as parents can also build cross-cultural awareness among our kids. So I want to talk to you, the next couple of questions are actually based around that. So you moved into the film industry, and then you produced wonderful short films and feature films, and you explored themes of prejudice, and you helped break stereotypes. And the films were also centered around family ancestry and things around immigration. So I want to understand why are these themes important to you?
Sure. So I think initially it was very much me wanting to tell stories that I felt confident to tell.
Yeah.
And that was the story of the immigrant child or the diasporic community. And I thought, well, that's what I can confidently and uniquely speak to. So I made a short film called Spy Sisters, which was about two older Indian ladies who were trying to have a second career of sorts. And I think it came from wanting to see the stories that reflected my community on screen as well. Like, as we all know, growing up in the 80s, you know, what you saw on television, it was pretty monocultural for such a multicultural nation. And I still remember when Bend It Like Beckham first came out and just cheering for the first time. That was like a mainstream film that I saw myself in there. It was so popular. It wasn't just the Indian community that were rallying behind that film. It was a blockbuster. So at the time, that was my holy grail. It's like, if I can make people feel seen, if I can make my community feel like their stories are entertaining and commercial and moving, what a wonderful thing to do. That then expanded to, it doesn't have to just be my community. I started meeting creatives like Osama Sami, who wrote and acted in Ali's Wedding, which was my first feature film credit as a producer. And similarly, like me, he wanted to tell the stories of his community because he hadn't seen them on screen. He was Iraqi, and he wanted to bring his community to the screen without any prejudice, because as we know, so often the portrayal of especially the Muslim community, the Arabic community, it's kind of one note. At the time, it was very much, they're either a taxi driver or a terrorist, and there's no nuance, and there's no detail, there's no, and they're often all supporting characters. So for us, it was about letting our community be front and center of their stories, let them be the principal characters. And we kind of joke, in my last television series, we have the token white supporting character. We don't have the token brown person in the background. So yeah, it comes from a desire to accurately reflect the country that we live in, but also to play to my strengths. I know the experience that I can tell most confidently, and I'll have the greatest chance of success by making stories about something that I feel like I can do justice to. So it's twofold. It's not all, unfortunately, it's not all just me wanting to do the right thing. It's also, let me try and achieve something.
And you achieved it, because I remember sitting in that theatre somewhere in Leichhardt, if I remember,
seeing
Ali's wedding, and I thought to myself, I am so proud of this lady, and I'm so proud that I'm here watching a film that you produced. It was amazing. Look, I think through your work, like here out west, for example, you must have studied and sort of researched or gathered insights into various cultures to understand what it is that you wanted to do, and potentially even subcultures of Asia. And I'm just really interested in how you went about that research. Was it like community leaders, being embedded in the community themselves, or like that particular society and kind of following people around, or was it particularly families? Like, did you travel? Like, I'd love to understand what you did to really understand it better.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think there's a really positive shift happening, or it's already sort of happened, I guess, in the film industry, where previously you used to have people coming into a community and just telling their story and not giving any agency or power to the people who actually have lived that experience. And you could, it was inauthentic. It just, and exploitative even. So with Here Out West, which was a co-production with a company called Co-Curious, the aim was to elevate and give a platform to Western Sydney emerging writers to tell the stories of their own communities, much like what I had the opportunity to do as an emerging filmmaker. So we let them be the leaders of their story. We didn't try to come in and say, we're going to tell a story of a community we don't know. So they were involved in all aspects of the process. So obviously they wrote the story. That it all starts with script for me. So it has to be authored authentically and from a place of truth and integrity. And from there, they weighed in on casting choices. Like, it wasn't like they just gave their scripts away, which often happens in the film industry. The writer has to give it to the director and the producer, and then away you go. But because they were meant to be leaders on all things to do with the authenticity of the story, they could you know, they were on set showing us what sort of furniture and what sort of food and, you know, everything. So that
important.
people, when they watch it, they can tell that it's been made from the inside, not from the outside.
Especially those people who are in that community, right? Because they're like, is this real or is this not?
Yeah, they can sense it. So people from the community and also out of the community, you can sort of sense authenticity. You can sense it if it's not real and it's just sensationalizing or exploitative or dipping into a community you don't know. So that was a beautiful experience. It was a challenge because we had to represent 8 communities on screen. There were 9 languages in that film, so lots of challenges. But my gosh, how wonderful to be offered the opportunity to get a glimpse into these 8 different communities. A lot of them I didn't know anything about.
So we want to talk a little bit about unconscious bias. Now, we all have it, whether we want to, admit to it or not.
Yep.
And just wondering, actually, I might start with Pav. From an unconscious bias perspective, is there anything you do from a personal perspective to reduce your bias?
Look, it's a great question. Like, I know that I have it because seeing something or reacting to something, I know that I have it because I'm just like, why did I think that way? Or why was my reaction that? And it's obviously, a part of how I was brought up and being in the family that I'm in and how I'm raised. And I don't know, maybe some subconscious things that I'm not even completely aware of. But I think for me is just trying to catch myself as it happens when it happens is the biggest thing, because that's the only way I can actually genuinely make change. Because if I'm unaware of it, I'm never going to know. So I think firstly, knowing that there is one, knowing that you have it and catching yourself in the moment is my first step towards trying to do anything to make myself better. And then putting steps in place to go, why did I actually think that? And sort of digging a little bit deeper to go, where's that actually come from? And is it based on anything that's founded actually in some ways, or is it just a feeling? And actually, if it is just a feeling, the feeling also has also come from somewhere. So you've got to dig, right? You've got to dig and go, where did that feeling come from? And why am I feeling comfortable or uncomfortable with this situation? Because there's more below the surface.
What about you? Look, I think for me, more recently, it's been about educating myself. And we went through some corporate training, which was fantastic. There are actually really good courses on LinkedIn, as well as YouTube, TED Talks and things like that. So I think for me, it has been about educating myself about the different types of biases that can occur, whether that's sort of gender bias or confirmation bias or age-related bias. So the first step for me has been that. But Pav, very much to what you said, it's then being able to catch yourself, so being conscious and aware and catching yourself when that shows up, and then being able to reflect and respond to it differently, which I'm still working on. And like I said, it's very much part of that journey. But I think that's where... that's how I'm trying to reduce the bias. Sheila, I know through your films, that has definitely helped break a lot of stereotypes, but also make people aware of the bias and that might exist as well. I'm wondering, from a personal point of view, is there anything that you are doing consciously to reduce that bias for yourself?
Oh, I love the honesty in your responses. My gosh, because it's quite confronting, isn't it? To actually accept that we all have unconscious, subconscious bias.
Without even realizing.
And it's not something to be super ashamed of, because like you said, Pavana, like it's a result of something. It's a result of the media that we're watching and the biases in the news, and there's so much more to it. But the first step has to be that acknowledgement that it is within you, and otherwise how will you catch yourself in the moment? Because then it comes to, as you said, the practical, the way it manifests, and the way we judge somebody by the way they speak or look or dress, or where they grew up or their level of education, whatever it might be. So,
and it happens so quickly as well, right? Sometimes it passes you by. That's why I'm saying, when you got to pick it up, you got to be so quick,
and reflect on it and think about it. And I mean, I think I find it really useful. I talk about it's a big discussion point with my husband, because often you can only have these conversations with people you feel safe with, of course. And I love that process of growth by talking about it and go, I reacted that way to that person, and I don't like the way that I reacted. How did you feel? And anyway, calling each other to account. So yes, a lot of my films, I would like to say, try and address biases against certain communities. in a subtle way. Do it through entertainment rather than my films are not documentaries. So ultimately they're meant to entertain, and I think that the best way to get audiences to open up their minds that their prejudice against communities might not be right is by disarming them, whether it be through humor. Like Ali's Wedding was a romantic comedy, and probably the first Muslim romantic comedy in Australia, I guess. And that was trying to use humor to say, you might have had certain ideas about this community that you have heard about on the news, but you don't actually know anybody from that community. Have a look at their family life. Have a look at the bonds between the love and the warmth and the respect and the power that the female characters have. It's to try and chip away through storytelling that's entertaining or funny or moving, whatever it might be. That some of those prejudices that you have, because you just don't know. Again, it's not saying someone's bad for having that. They just didn't know. They formed an opinion based on stuff they're hearing or seeing. So that's been sort of the guiding light of the kinds of stories I want to tell in my films, for it to have some sort of meaning or importance to society. If they can change one person's mind about a certain community or topic, then I feel as though we've achieved something.
Okay, I'm going to change tact a little bit, and we're going to talk about family and cross-cultural values and themes. In the world that we live in today, we're seeing a lot more cross-cultural families. Being in one yourself. Is there something that you do consciously, especially with your children, to make them more aware of your joint cultures? And how do you navigate that? Like, is it easy? Is it hard? Is it just different?
Yeah, look, my kids are quite young still. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, so it's a lot of fun still.
Yeah, okay.
So I married Australian-born but Austrian background, Julian, my husband. So one of the most charming thing my almost 8-year-old has been saying for quite some time is that she's half Australian, half Austrian and half Indian. And I love that. I'm like, maths doesn't add up, but who cares? Because I love the sentiment.
That is very cute.
Yeah. So we love talking about where he's from, where I'm from. I think grandparents play a huge role in that. Unfortunately, my husband lost both his parents during the COVID time, and his father lived in Austria. And so that was it's harder for them to, I suppose, wrap their head around that part of their background, but they still know daddy's Austrian and he can speak German. Seeing my parents and the great thing about Indian culture, it's so rich, right? Like all I have to do is get out a beautiful lehenga and they're like, I love being Indian, it's like,
who doesn't?
They just love it. So we all recently went to India. It was their first time over there, and their mind was blown by the number of aunties and uncles they had. They could not believe it. Asha still comes home and says, I have billions of aunties. I'm like, maybe not quite billions, but yes, a lot. So I love that we can bring that dimension to their childhood. And they're proud of it. I think it's like they love going to school and talking about it. It's an extra richness. I think it's interesting today, or maybe it's the school they're in or where we are. It's something to be coveted to have that extra dimension to who you are. I don't know. There's like I think so anyway.
I definitely.
Yeah, whether it be the food, the costume, the language.
It's just another element of I don't know, things that you uncover, richness. Yeah, exactly. And how would you ever be privy to it if you weren't in that, right?
No, exactly. Like, people were so jealous when we said we're going to India for a wedding. Like, sure, you'll be very welcome. So we keep it alive through food, through them seeing their grandparents, talking about the two countries a lot. But like I say, they're at the age where they're very interested.
Awesome. And Sheila, just to close off on the cross-cultural theme, I'm just wondering, for yourself or through your films, what's your vision looking into the near future? What's something that you want to continue to be involved in?
Yeah, I love filmmaking. I love television in particular. I think it is the golden age of TV and binge watching series late into the night.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I love working with writers from different ethnic backgrounds. Like I say, I've collaborated very much with Osama, who's Iraqi. I've got another close friend who's Papua New Guinean. So I want to continue doing that. I suppose the long-term goal would be to go back to writing. I'd really love screenwriting.
Nice.
That would be the ambition. The 10-year ambition would be to write a screenplay for television.
All right. So we have the segment where we have a question from our previous guest.
Okay.
Are you ready for
You're like, oh my God.
I know, no prep. All right, let's see what happens.
So this is from Dr. Raj Puranik. And his question was, has your definition of success changed over time?
Yes. Okay, that's such a great
I can answer this.
Yeah, we love the question.
Answer that because it was funny. I was reflecting on just that. I don't know why. I must have had,
Vibes were coming your
way for that. Gosh. Definitely, absolutely. I think pre-kids, success was all linked to career.
Yeah.
You know, like even, I still remember when I was like in high school, I had this weird goal that by the age of 21, I would win an Academy Award for directing.
Good on you for having it.
It's great. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
Totally unrealistic. But, you know, and it's nice to have those. And I worked so hard, like in my 20s, too hard. And back then I would hold it up as I was proud of it. Oh, I stayed up till 2 a.m. so I could balance my legal day job with writing and producing my scripts. It actually made me quite ill. Like there were long-term consequences of not looking after myself because there was such a desire to achieve in career. So I think I really want to, I'm so chastened by that strive, and it's hard, benefit of hindsight, right? And on the other hand, I'm so proud of where I've gotten to and I've actually made it. I feel like I'm now established as a producer. So I just think I would have got that work-life balance a bit right. Right now, success to me looks like not blowing up at my kids. I don't know.
That is success. That is definitely
like
success.
Keeping the family intact.
Being a mindful, calm parent. Like right now, I mean, I love this age. It's beautiful. And I know it'll go very quickly. So it's creating wonderful memories with my family, making sure they have the happiest childhood so that they can go on to be...
It doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back.
Doesn't come back.
And you just keep reading that it's so important. Not that I want to get brainwashed by the first 5 years if you've stuffed it up. I don't want to go down that path, but right now I definitely want to slow down because I worked so hard and intensively in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And then now just to do a bit of a gear change and do the things that make myself happy, which is very much around the family. And I never, if you'd asked me that in my 20s, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I want to be successful in my career. I couldn't imagine wanting just to focus on family raising. But your values change. They evolve.
Yeah. You know, having known you for so many years and as a young person, to see what you've done, what you've achieved and who you've become and the wonderful woman and mother and wife and daughter that you are. Yeah. I'm so happy to say that I was part of your journey growing up because it's shaped who I am, right? Like knowing all these little moments of connections shapes us. So, this has been a privilege. I really do like it.
Thank you so much. It's been such really lovely getting to know you a bit more as well, even though I've known you from childhood.
But to reconnect.
So great to have for you to agree and come to do this straight away. So thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I thought it was so personal with Sheila and, you know, also what she's trying to achieve in terms of her film and her entertainment in terms of, you know, breaking those cross-cultural barriers. I thought it was great. So I hope you did too. I guess from a key takeaway perspective, what I really enjoyed was the fact that she said, or what she aims to do is to disarm with humour and entertainment. And I think that's so important and so easy. We can, you know, I'd love to take my kids to a movie or engage them in books where it does just that, to just sort of open our minds and our hearts.
And I love the fact that she called out grandparents as well, and them being such a key component in raising that cultural awareness, both for us as well as for our kids. So I really love that. I think that's something we can all do, you know, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, agree. And I think one other thing I took away from this is, you know, we live next to people on a street who are different to us a lot of the time. And we're so sometimes involved, or at least I am, in terms of bringing my family into my house all the time, that I forget that my neighbours, who are such wonderful people who help me when I'm on holidays, put my bins out and do all kinds of things, I don't invite them enough to my house. And when I do, I think it really brings in a different type of culture, energy, I guess an understanding that you would never know if you didn't do that. So my thing to myself is I will make sure that I invite my neighbours over a little bit more.
Lovely. And I think for me, there are so many cultural events here in Sydney, just, at stone's throw. So for me, it'll be trying to attend more of those, and also from an internal journey as well, being more aware, being more open to attending and understanding those cultural aspects as well.
I think that's great. And, there are so many websites as well that show what's on at the moment in certain areas. So, subscribe to those as well.
Absolutely. That's it
From us,
for today, folks.
your host,
Chitra
and Pav,
signing off.
until next time.